Welcome to this DaVinci Resolve Fusion node breakdown. Today's nodes are the B-Spline mask and the Polygon mask nodes. So in Fusion, we're going to go ahead and go up to our toolbar and bring down a Polygon and a B-Spline mask node. Alternatively, you can hit Shift Space and search for these nodes. Now these nodes are pretty much the same, so I'm going to cover them. The one main difference is a Polygon mask uses Bezier splines and the B-Spline uses B-Splines, which I'll show you. But other than that, they're pretty much the exact same node. So the operation and what they do, the animation and everything's exactly the same, other than one major difference we'll get to at the very end. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I really don't use these nodes very often, other than just simple quick stuff. Not because they're bad nodes, they're amazing nodes, and you'll pretty much be using them with anything you do in Fusion. However, I use Mocha Pro for everything that these nodes can do and more. So, for example, if I needed to create a mask around her hand and track it, there's tons of stuff I would have to do be able to do that with a B-Spline or a Polygon, as opposed to if I just open Mocha and input some media. Let's get rid of that. Launch Mocha, and all I really have to do is just create something around there. Track her hand. Export my track to Fusion. Copy it. Save this. So once I'm back into Fusion, all I have to do is Control V, and there's my track data. Delete that node. So if I needed to say attach something to this, just go to the background, bring this to the foreground, and let's get a little something to attach. Attach it to her hand. Bring in my track data. And I've got my thing tracking with her hand. It's that simple in Mocha. There's a lot more steps you have to do to make that happen within B-Spline and Polygon. So let me get rid of all this. Anyway, so that's why I use Mocha Pro for anything, and I could always jump back in and create my mats. I can do lens correction, stabilization, everything within this one single node, and just keep reusing it. And eventually I'm going to go over everything in Mocha Pro within Fusion, how to do all that stuff after I knock out all these native Fusion nodes. But if you want to jump in and learn something real quick, I do have a kind of a VFX for the indie filmmaker. It's geared towards us lone filmmakers, and it goes in depth within Fusion, going over all that stuff, creating mats, tracking mats, keying out and everything using Mocha Pro within Fusion. So I'll put a link in the description, and it's $26 for like 20 hours of instruction. It comes with file downloads and everything you need to get off and running, doing all that fun stuff. So anyway, back to this node breakdown. The B-Spline and Polygon nodes. So let's go ahead and connect them up. And let's bring this into 1, this into 2. And let's lock our nodes. So the one major difference between B-Spline and Polygon is basically how they create their splines. So if you notice, a B-Spline creates a single spline with the curve centered in the middle. There are no handles to adjust it. If you need to adjust the sharpness of your splines, you have to hold your W key, and you can adjust what splines are selected. So if I only need to do this one, hold my W key and I can sharpen it up and change my curve. The Polygon node creates handles. So if I need to adjust my curve up here, I can use these handles to, I can use these handles to adjust my curve. Ooh, and I'm adding. I can use these handles to adjust my curve. There we go. And that's how the polygon node works. So let's clear these out. Now within our controls over here, you can see they're both exactly the same. So let's go ahead and get some curves going. So they both have levels to adjust your overall level. And they both have the same filter and soft edge that all other mask nodes have. They also have our border width, which if we uncheck solid, we can change our border width. And you can change your border style. And what that means is, let's go ahead and change our length. You can change the length of your border. And you can change the position of your border. But I'm going to turn these off so you can kind of see what's going on. So our border style is, actually let me turn that back on so I can get a sharp edge going. Otherwise you're not going to see some of this stuff. And let me change this one. There. So for your border styles, you have rounded, which it's on right now. You have beveled, so it gives you that squared beveled edge. You have mitered, which means it's going to be pointy. And you have mitered clipped, which means if I adjust this so it's a little sharper, we might be able to see what I mean by that. So if I have it just on straight normal mitered and have a super sharp edge, you can see it's going to cut off. If I have it on mitered clipped, it's going to extend it out. It's going to keep going. So that's the difference between those two. And of course your ends, you've got your end, whether it's flat at the very end of your line, if it adds an additional rounded end, or if it adds an additional squared end. You can see the difference between our flat and our squared. It adds that additional data. So that is your border and line info. Down here are your controls for your center. So if I move this all around, you've got your size adjustment. You can rotate on the x-axis, rotate it on the y-axis, and rotate it on the z-axis. And this fill method, let me go to our polygon tool because it'll be easier to show you this. If I have some crazy cross sections going, what your fill method does is it'll change how these are filled, whether it's alternate or non-zeroed. So you can see it'll fill in some of those, and that's what your fill method does. So let's go ahead and refresh our splines and get a nice new spline going. And I can see we did our keyframe there. So all these are animatable also. So if I go here, go to the end, animate, you can see all our keys are animatable. So, and you can, if you right click right here for shape information or shape animation, you can set your key, you can edit, you can insert, and you can do all that fun stuff. Additionally, you've got all your animation settings down here in your animation window, which we will not be going over because that'll be an entire tutorial in itself. So all these points are animatable. Up top on our menus, and let me go ahead and clear this back out. Up here by default is going to be on click append, which means it's going to lets you draw in your data. This menu right here lets you draw in a pen. And let's go to B-Spline and I'll select draw, and you just click and drag and you can draw in your spline. Now this, we'll skip over to this one, this little circle with a plus. What that does is it closes any open splines. So it just closes it up for us. This next one right here will allow you to insert and modify. So if I needed to add another point on this line, I just click and add another point and I can modify it. This one lets you modify only, so I can't click on a line and add another one, but I can select one of these points and edit it. This button right here, what this does is it marks everything as done. So once you're finished with all your stuff, if you select this, you can't accidentally select any of your stuff. Now just know this isn't a toggle button. You can't toggle it on and off. If you want to edit again, you have to select one of your edit buttons to go back. Now you can edit it again. This button right here will smooth any of your points out. So if I select this, and you can see it's on linear, if I smooth it out, it smooths it out. And this one will make it linear. This one right here will let you select all your points. And this shows your key points, meaning your main points. So I can show them. I can show them or hide them. This one shows or hides your handles. This one right here allows you to edit your, oops, you gotta select it all, and edit your overall shape with a box. So I can come in here and edit my shape. This one right here will delete points. So if I needed to delete this one point, I can just delete it. Now this button, reduce points, is extremely handy, especially when you use the draw-in method. So if I select all my points and I select reduce points, it'll come up with this pop-up and it'll let me know how many points. But even though I want, say, only 5 points, it's going to go to the minimum it can go to automatically to maintain that shape. So here it says 20, it's going to give us 36 knots, and but 20. You can up it, you can down it, but it's going to go down to a minimum on its own. And once I hit OK, it's going to get rid of all those additional points it doesn't need to maintain that shape. Now, our next button is our publish button. So say I select this point and I wanted to publish that point. And what publish means, it means it's actually extracting that data for use in other nodes. So it's extracting the actual point data to use in, say, a tracker or something else you need to use that point data for. Now, once I publish this point, you notice we have this point information right down here now. And again, it's all still animatable. So if I go to the end, go to the other end, you notice we're losing information. That's because we already previously published our data and that new data isn't published. So you have to republish everything. Now, like I said, I don't use this stuff very often, but it's kind of the same concept. You're publishing information on these points to use in, say, trackers. So let's say we wanted to track this point right here. If I went to publish data, I could say publish to point tracker, and it's automatically going to attach and kind of link that data to that point within our polygon. And then you can go to your tracker node and do all your tracking and everything else you need to do. Now, the one thing I don't like about, let me delete delete that node, is once you publish a point and say, let's refresh, you notice we still have these points published. And I still don't know how to really get rid of it because it's not an option to remove it. So let me delete this node and get us a fresh one. Now within that publish points, there are some simple things you can do as well. So say we wanted to just publish this point. We can right click and we can go to our animate button, which is just going to bring up our animation. We can publish the path, we can modify it. So say we want it to shake, we can make it shake automatically. So it's just going to shake, which could be cool if you need to do stuff like that. So just know there's an entire menu on its own right here to use with that data, including writing your own expressions and doing other fun stuff. So that's your publish to points. And I'm going to delete this again and get us a fresh one so we don't have that published point data. And let's make us a polygon. This next node, make points follow nearby publish points, and I'm not going to publish again. So basically, if I have this point published and say I added a new point, I can make these follow those published points using this. This is your double if you need to see dual lines. So let me go ahead and zoom in. And if I hit my tab button, it's going to tab between the different lines. So this green is just showing we have our original polygon line going. Now we have our outer border going. So this is how you add like a fades and adjust your border. And if you go back, you've got your overall line. So that is the double line, and that's how you use that. And you can just anytime you do adjustments, you just turn it back off. Let's create a little polygon. All right, this is for our onion skinning. So we can see what's going on with our entire animation. And within the menu, you have your onion skin settings to show your count. If you only wanted 2 frames, you can have 2 frames. If you wanted them all, you just put 100, it's gonna show them all. And down here you can set your previous skin color. So if I wanted to know the difference between my previous and next frames, I can change the color. Let's make those pink, purplish. So now when I go through, you can see they're going to change purple. So I can tell the difference between the keyframes. That is onion skinning. Now, this menu right here is the only thing that the B-Spline does not have. You are not allowed to do this assisted rotoscoping or roto assist within the B-Spline. So we're going to single this up so we can see what's going on with our polygon assist. Let's refresh. Now, once I hit this polygon assist button, it's going to bring up our background image so we can see what's going on. It makes sense. Now, if I start selecting, it's going to look for the nearest line for rotoing what it thinks we're trying to roto out. So if I select that and I make another one, I can move it till it's up, make another one, move it. So you can see how that goes. Now within your menu, you've got the Roto Assist multiple points, which will do multiple points along, and your distance pretty much tells the distance between in pixels, like how far off of this you're willing to go. If I made it only 1, it's going to have a tighter line that I have to be on, as opposed to if I made it, I believe it's 16 is the max it goes up to. it's going to give you a little more leeway. So that is the Roto Assist button. Now, mind you, it's not following this path on the entire timeline. So you still have to do animation to follow it. But if I go here and say, click this button, it's going to find that line again for me. So if I need to make quick animations to make sure I'm on the line, it's going to help me out with that. Yeah, your handles don't work. So it's got to be your actual, so you can see how that goes. So that's how you would animate following your roto lines. And again, I use Mocha Pro for all this stuff, so I don't really use these for this stuff. Now, if once you deselect, your image is going to go away. So that is the B-Spline and Polygon nodes. I will see you in the next node breakdown.